Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, criminal court, and other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Marianne Petrie. You can find me, my books, and blogs on dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com. And if you have a tale to tell, you're welcome to contact me there as well, dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com. I have a brand new guest on. I'm very pleased to have Renata DeMello on from California. She's an advocate for parents and children regarding domestic violence and disability issues. But today she wants to talk about her very close childhood friend, Giselle Smiel. Giselle Smiel is a devoted mother, a woman of faith, and a survivor of severe domestic violence who is now facing 6 felony charges, not because of any criminal act, but for protecting her children in the midst of a high conflict custody battle. A lifelong California resident with no criminal record, Gizelle has been the sole caregiver to her children for the past 5 years, consistently prioritizing their safety and well-being. In a devastating turn, the family court commissioner awarded full custody to the father, who has a documented history of abuse, after Giselle missed a hearing due to her son's medical emergency. Just weeks later, on September 4th, 2025, she was arrested and is now being held on a $500,000 bail while the father remains free. This case reflects a system that's well oiled, and it keeps churning out victims that too often punishes survivors rather than protecting them. Despite years of documented abuse and her attempts to comply with co-parenting under dangerous conditions, Giselle was denied a full evidentiary hearing, federally required ADA accommodations, and her rights under state and federal law. Her story is part of a growing national crisis where protective mothers are criminalized for safeguarding their. Say Giselle is urgently raising funds to retain a trauma-informed legal team to fight these charges and appeal the custody decision. This is about justice, not just for Giselle, but for every survivor navigating this system that fails to protect them and their children. I welcome you, Renata. It's great to have you on.
Thank you so much, Marianne, for having me, and thank you for that beautiful description. It's very accurate, and it's very troubling because Giselle's reality, it's not just hers. It's something that is becoming so frequent, and it's the reality of many. And it's scary to hear that this story is repeating across the nation. So this is why it's so important that we're meeting here today,
Mhm.
because a lot of the women that are facing this, a lot of families, I wouldn't say just women, but a lot of families that are facing this
Mhm.
do not have the support, do not have the advocacy, or they may not even have friends and family that have a voice or that have any type of support or even know what channels to go to for any type of assistance, or where do they turn to. And I'll give you an example. Giselle is currently in LA County jail, and she reports that the jail is overcrowded. There's maybe 10 to 1 per cell. So that tells me something,
Mhm.
right?
That's very dangerous as well, because even when I was put in jail, they were overbooked. They had too many. It was hard to get me a cell with a bed and just one other person in there.
Right, right. So this is a system. This is a systematic problem,
Hmm.
and we have to question, why is this happening? Is this a system created for profit? Is this a system failure by accident, or is it intentional? Because there's a pattern of behavior here that we're seeing. And we can't blame what, let's refer to the ex as the perpetrator. We
Hmm.
can't blame the perpetrator, because the way I look at it is who's truly the enabler here is the system, right?
Hmm.
If the perpetrator has been given the tools to continue the abuse via litigation, um, then therefore there's a bigger perpetrator here.
I agree. I agree. I also had another guest tell me the same thing.
Mhm. So I am urging the public to really start looking at their own courthouses. Start to observe family court cases, because what I've been noticing across the board is that these public hearings, okay, they're called public hearings for a reason,
Hmm. Hmm.
because they're public. The public should be welcome to observe and um, watch these hearings. However, they are very much encouraged to not to observe. For example, all public hearings have Zoom links, right?
Right.
However, they refrain from you observing these hearings via Zoom. They want you to drive to the courthouse, park your car in these outrageous parking lots that are very expensive,
Like $20 a day.
right? Which funds the city, right? And they usually have a limit of like 2 hours per day, which then you have to come out of the court building, move your car, park somewhere else, which is not feasible. And then go figure out which department you have to go into, sit on the bench in this bright, room, cold, and watch and witness a court proceeding. That's not feasible and doable for most.
Hmm.
So to stop, if you think about it, these Zoom links are paid by the public, so therefore should be accessible by the public. And in addition, it's not only paid by the public should have access to it, because the accommodation and the accessibility should be readily available. For example, if you have a lunch break at work, or if your lunch break happens to be at 10:30 in the morning, instead of noon, and you can log in, and watch a court proceeding, it should be accessible,
Right.
right? Or another option would be to stream it. There's no reason why these shouldn't be streamed.
Hmm.
That we need to have the public's eyes on these public hearings. These are
Hmm.
public buildings, public hearings with public officials. And in Giselle's case, there were many hearings that I've observed, not only as a public concerned citizen, but also as her advocate, as her ADA advocate, where she was there all alone. The opposing party, her ex, and this was in a family court proceeding, had attorneys. There was no one present in the room. So which means they scheduled it on the calendar, where she, a victim of domestic violence,
Hmm.
was completely isolated and pushed into a corner, and there was no court reporter.
Ah,
So therefore, she had no source of, there was no transparency, no accountability, no checks and balances, nothing to really make sure that her case was, black and white on paper. So there's been so many things in her case that has transpired in her family law case that has led to these criminal charges that has set her up for failure. And to my understanding, these felony charges are 1000% bogus.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because a perfect example is the custody orders that, she had full physical custody of these children for over 5 years. She took care of them, after the domestic violence incident. She moved to San Diego from Santa Clarita, California,
Mm-hmm.
and took care of the children. Her ex was not paying for child support or spousal support. He owed over $200,000 in child support. She filed multiple motions requesting the court to hold them accountable for support while she was working multiple jobs to pay rent, put food on the table, buy them clothing, keep up with medical bills, keep them, in school, and, hold up the fort as a single mom. And the court wouldn't do anything, absolutely nothing. And it's outrageous to me because I've seen amazing dads, amazing fathers pounding the pavement. And then they get held up for like backed up child support on like $5,000, $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
And they call me and they're like, Ren, by the way, some people call me Ren. That's kind of like my nickname. They go, Ren, I'm being crucified. I'm working so hard. And
Oh.
these are good dads, right? So they're good dads that are trying really hard and they get penalized for a backed up child support, while this guy, who, by the way, he's a private airline pilot.
Mm.
Okay. And I'm not going to say who he flies for, but apparently one of his clients has given many people a pneumonia. Okay.
Ah.
Yeah. So he owes her that kind of money and he was never held accountable. Every time she brought a motion forward into court and begged and pleaded with the court for support, for accountability, she was pushed and shoved. And he had attorneys for child support. He had he had attorney for the domestic violence. He had attorneys for the custody matters. To my knowledge, he had at least 4 different attorneys. While she had one attorney at one point in time, which she borrowed funds from multiple people,
Oh.
and she was awarded attorney fees, and he had to pay her those attorney fees, which I believe was $20,000, which he never reimbursed her for. And she went back to the court and said, "Hey, you awarded me $20,000 for, for this, and he's never paid me. Can you please reinforce these orders?"
I'm glad you brought that up because a taxpayer needs to know that even despite if you win something like that, for instance, I won a pension fund in the Superior Court of Pennsylvania. It was only 2 grand. It wasn't even anything, but he just never paid it.
Yeah.
You can win, but that doesn't mean they're going to pay up. And the taxpayer needs to know this because this can happen to them.
Right. But if you think about it, it's not just about the money in itself. So let's put it this way. It's 220, it's actually over 200,000. If I'm not mistaken, it's approximately 235,000. Okay. But I'm not going to say the exact number because
Hmm.
for now I'm saying over 200,000 just to be on the safe side.
Hmm.
So let's say, but I'm pretty sure it's around 235. So let's say 235 and then plus a 20, let's say around 250. The 250,000, that's for the backed up child support and spousal support and the attorney fees. Now, let's add up the time that she put into self litigating. Okay. That's the time that she put into studying the law because she was dedicated. She was dedicated into educating herself about the law.
Mm-hmm.
Gizelle was determined to know what was expected of her. You know, she wanted to understand. And she's extremely smart and bright. And she spent a lot of time doing that. So let's put that time into it. And
Mm-hmm.
say, if we were to calculate that time, even in minimum wages, California minimum wages, okay? If we were going to add that up, that's a lot of money because she worked day and night in court papers.
It's
Day
horrible.
and night. Okay? Because you're going to think about not just minimum wages, you're going to think about overtime. Because she would go to work and then she would take the kids to school. Then she would work on their homeworks. Then she would take them to doctor's appointment. And then she would spend all night reading case law, reading the law, working on declarations,
Mm-hmm.
work on, rebuttal, and then rereading again. And then she, go wake up, and do it again, and then go back to work the next day. So her time self-litigating, we can't toss that away. We can't just be like, oh, well, she's self-represented. We have to put value in the time that we do things for ourselves,
Right.
right? So we can't put that a waste. And I'm putting $1 into that, and minimum wage is like not even anything, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, the bare minimum, because I think her time is actually more valuable than that.
I agree. I agree.
But we can't devalue that. So, and I tell you, Marianne, I've been to her house and she had court documents in her kitchen table, in her bedroom, in her loft. It was surrounded. And she had them all organized into files, into boxes. And it looked like, those movies where, the person is like doing like this mysterious investigation. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, like, okay, where are the cords that lead? I even joked with her, like you need to have a map or something because it was so extreme. And this is a mom. She was a mom. This is
Eh,
not, this is what I define litigation abuse. He was drowning her.
right. Right. And the legal abuse is defined in the DSM-5 now. So she had an ex that was emotionally abusive to her, legally abusing her, and financially abusing her, all
Yeah,
wrapped up into one. And we talked earlier about narcissistic abuse.
right.
And I just wonder if he ever had a psych eval and does he fall into the dark triad of narcissism?
Oh, absolutely. He's the definition. I think if we were to put, a picture in the narcissistic abuse, we would probably see his picture there.
Hmm.
Um, absolutely. Absolutely.
I feel so bad for her. Yeah, it's just,
It was interesting because during this period of time where she went to court, she was battling in court, and then um, she was feeling really overwhelmed because there were so many hearings, so many different things. And then one day she missed a hearing. We talked about that. She missed a hearing, and she later found out that hearing that she missed the commissioner granted full physical custody to the dad because she missed the hearing. Now, I'm not going to go into the details of the California codes and the constitutional law as to why that was a unlawful order. Okay, I'm not going to get into the technicalities of it because that will be disputed, right? So I'm not going to get into the technicalities of it. Um, but I'm just going to leave it at that. That was an unlawful order.
Right. So this is a commissioner? Is this a magistrate?
That
What
was
is it?
a commissioner.
So
Yeah,
what is that? For like here in Pennsylvania, we're used to judges or a magistrate.
right. So she's not like a fool. She's not a judge.
Does she have a Juris Doctorate behind her?
You know, I'm not really sure. A commissioner, she can make orders. She's appointed, but she's not a
Oh
judge.
no.
Yeah,
Oh no.
yeah.
Uh,
And
oh
I'm not,
dear.
I am not fully certain that they can make life-changing orders, right? Because to my understanding, life-changing orders must be judicial.
Hmm.
I haven't looked into if a commissioner is allowed to do that, but I do know that orders pertaining to custody have to have certain criteria. And I have looked into that. And I can tell you that that particular order did not meet those criteria. So that I can assure you, but I will not go into detail because
Right.
that will be appealed and will be litigated. And in fact, I was at the hearing where Giselle filed a motion for reconsideration, and we argued it with this commissioner,
Hmm.
and we were very. I felt that we were pretty successful in arguing it, and I think we will be successful in appealing it and fighting that.
I mean, I'm curious to know what this commissioner's actual credentials are, because as you recall, in North Carolina, with that poor girl that was, you know, murdered on the bus, train, and someone without a Juris Doctorate just let this guy continuously repeat offend.
Yeah, yeah. I believe her name was Kendra. I can look it up and I can send it to you. Um,
Interesting.
yeah.
Because they're finding that a lot of these people don't even have Juris Doctorates,
Mm,
and they really shouldn't even be handling these matters.
right. So during that hearing, we did bring up an oral motion at the end of the hearing. Towards the end of the hearing, we brought up a verbal motion for her to disqualify herself um, from the bench from her case. With the argument of that, she was biased and she needed to recuse herself.
Hmm.
First, I think she was kind of caught off guard, so she for a break. She came back and she tried to strike it from the bench, which we then argued that you know um, you can't strike your own motion. That in itself is bias.
Right.
She agreed. She found the argument compelling. So, but long story short, Gizelle did not. Um, right after that hearing was when things went down, and soon after that, Gizelle was taken. Yeah.
So they make up a bunch of felonies on people, and people have to know about false arrest because this happens frequently
Well,
to people.
the thing is that I think
She was in the San Diego prison. Then they move her to the
Oh,
LA prison.
so
No.
listen to this. You're going to really find this interesting. She got taken on September 4th and taken to San Diego. September 4th was a Thursday. So, according to my understanding of the law, you have the right to a speedy trial, a speedy hearing. You're supposed to
Hmm.
be heard in front of the judge within 48 hours. So, to my understanding, she was going to be able to appear before a judge on this matter by Monday, latest Tuesday.
Right.
Well, she did not. She was in San Diego County for almost 2 weeks.
Mm.
She was accused of denying a DNA sample, which she did not deny it. She asked for a counsel or to speak to her ADA support person, which is me.
Hmm.
Asked for a phone call because they asked her to provide a DNA sample. So she asked for a phone call to a counsel or to her ADA support person. And they denied her. So they asked her, and this is what she reports. They asked her, "Are you going to fight me?" She said, "No." So she reports, sit. They instructed her to sit down. She sat down. She reports, they asked me to put my hands up. She put her hands up. They took the swab. They locked her up for 3 days. And they filed a misdemeanor charge. Locked her up for 3 days. Then she had to appear in front of a judge in San Diego County on a misdemeanor charge for refusing to collaborate and provide a DNA sample. Luckily, the day that she went to jail, she went to jail that September 4th, that evening. I don't remember if it was that evening or it was the very next morning. Um, I immediately got on the phone and emailing with the ADA unit
Hmm.
because that night I was handling the matters with the children. So I
Hmm.
was children. Um, so I immediately started emailing the ADA unit and calling the jail, setting up ADA accommodations for her. So I had all the emails, everything. So when I found out that she was when I found out that she was in lockdown and that she was being charged with a misdemeanor, I immediately called the public defender's office and set the record straight.
Right.
And I demanded that she would be properly represented and that those charges be dropped. So that's when the public defender, and God bless his heart, he was awesome. His name was Logan Rand. He jumped on it and made sure that those charges were dropped.
Hmm.
But listen to this. Listen to this. When Gizelle was transferred to LA County, they didn't notify me of the hearing that she had with the judge for these six felony charges and her outrageous, astronomical $500,000 bail. Her public defender in LA County called me 2 minutes before her hearing. She said, and her name was Lauren Ellis from LA County. She says, "Miss DeMello, you are Miss Smiel's ADA advocate. I'm calling because Miss Smiel is about to appear in front of the judge. I just wanted to talk to you, see if it would be okay if we ask for no bail and that she would see a counselor. Maybe we can agree on ankle monitoring. Um, but we're gonna ask for no bail, like zero bail. I'm like, okay, that sounds somewhat reasonable. Okay, you know. Um, and then she said, well, counseling with your supervision. And I'm like, okay, I think we can work something out. Um, and I said, please make sure to call me if anything arises because I can answer any questions.
Mhm.
And I also said, call me afterwards. I want you to call me afterwards. So I get a phone call from Gizelle
Mm.
telling me, and this is what Gizelle reports, that the DA, the district attorney in LA, used the DNA. Okay. He accused her of the no cooperation and told the judge that she does not cooperate and that he feels that the bail should remain at 500,000 because she showed in San Diego that she does not cooperate. And her public defender didn't object. And we have proof that
Mhm.
dismissed. And not only was dismissed, she was wrongfully put in lockdown. This was serious. This was
Mhm.
an ADA and due process of law violation. If anything, it was their wrongdoing,
Right.
not
Eh,
hers.
Right. As well as a human rights violation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're seeing, we're seeing more things that are happening that are wrong, which I'm not allowed to say it at this time.
Mhm.
Um, but there's definitely things that are occurring that are very consistent with stories, with other stories that we've seen in the media, right?
Mhm.
Pattern behavior.
I have had Mark Fishman on my podcast, and he's talked about the ADA and police patterns of misconduct. So the misconduct also with her ex, how can he treat the mother of his children like this?
Oh, I can mention this. Before before the change of custody, okay? She had sent a proposal to the ex and his attorney offering, to settle outside of court.
Mhm.
And to my knowledge and my understanding, she also sent a copy to the court saying, so we can all be on the same page. This is what I'm offering, and I want to settle out of court. I don't want to go to court anymore.
Mhm.
This is what I want to do. I'm offering him more than what he's willing to take or what he wants. I'm offering him more. So if he doesn't want this much, it's okay, you know,
Mhm.
but I'm willing to give him more just so we can be done.
Mhm. Mhm.
And we have it in writing that he wanted her to go to jail.
I believe that only
That he was
because
not doing it outside of court. His sole intention was her to go to jail.
right, right. And this is also a pattern. in my case, when my ex ran up to the rail to the child support judge and said I should be in jail. Like,
Right. And you know what? It's a pattern of behavior. All narcissistic abusers, whether they're females or males or females,
mhm,
they all seem to have that type of language. It's like their ultimate goal, right? To destroy.
right.
Their ultimate goal is to destroy. They absolutely don't care whether, the children are okay or
Mhm.
the life they're offering a better life for the children. The children are not in a better place.
No. In fact, that's worsening. It's also hurting their ACEs scores, their adverse childhood experience score.
Hmm.
He,
Yeah, yeah. And it's a really scary thing for the children because
mhm, mhm.
they're now not permitted to speak to their mother. He's isolating the kids from speaking to everyone who they're used to speaking to, right? So everybody that they're associated with, like me, I'm their auntie, anybody that they're used to is no longer permitted. So let's talk about, completely isolation and brainwashing and
Mhm. Mhm.
the whole, reprogramming.
Oh.
And what happened to the whole theory of let's do what's best for the children? So this whole family court system is bogus,
Mhm.
right? So it's 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 a front. It's a front. And
It's
until we hold the public accountable, until we hold ourselves accountable, we, the public, okay, because it's our funding, it's our money. We're the ones that are putting these people into office. We're the ones that are putting these people into place. We're the ones that are paying for these buildings, right? The
oh.
house. We're the ones that are putting these buildings up. We're the ones that are paying for these officials.
See, I think when you said, which I thought was great that you said that the family court is a front because it's a front for the Title IV, B, D, and E funding.
Right.
And that's a moneymaker. It's just a huge moneymaker. And they're using Social Security monies to do that to match, for people that don't know, to match the child support dollar that a person is paying. So the
Right.
taxpayers don't know this. Even attorneys really don't know this. They're not taught this in law school.
Right. Right. And they are, they really don't want to say it because the attorneys, we have to remember the attorneys sworn an oath to the court,
Hmm.
right? Their oath is to the court. So they cannot do or say anything that will harm the court or to the judge, right? So if they go and do something that is against the grain and on, you know, to help you, the client, or help the public in any way, they are going to be retaliated against and they're going to lose their bar license, right?
Hmm.
So this is why it's so important for the public to be involved and understand that attorney is not going to solve everything. People say, "Oh, get an attorney, get an attorney." An attorney has handcuffs on. He really does, or she really does. She can only
Hmm.
help so much. She can only litigate on the part that is pertaining to the case and pertaining to those laws that it's about the case. But when it comes to what you said, the Title IV, the background on, this whole why things operate the way they do,
Hmm.
and why things are being that broad discretion and why they are really dipping into things they're not supposed to, why they're not operating in within the realm they're supposed to be operating, why is there's no transparency, why there's no accountability. That is not an attorney thing.
Mm.
That's an advocacy thing. And that's where the people need to understand. That's why it's so important to have advocates and to have attorneys, because they're two different things. And that's why it's important to have the public's eyes on both. And the public needs to be just as present as an attorney and as an advocate. We need to show up for court hearings. We need the people there to see. Because you know what? If we have a courtroom full of people in these family law cases, the judge will think twice before making a bogus ruling, because he or she won't know who's sitting there. He or she won't know who is sitting there. They'll think twice before making a stupid decision.
A
Right?
life-altering one that will alter even the children's lives forever.
So, in my case, in my personal case, I'll give you a perfect example. I've had situations, not just in my case, but in different cases, because I also do a lot of court watching and I
Hmm.
work a lot of court watching, right? And I'll give you a couple examples I can think of where we've coordinated court watchers to appear in hearings where we showed up in numbers, where we knew that the outcome was preset to go a certain way. But because we showed up in numbers and the judge wasn't expecting it, the judge was stunned and he was left with no choice but to do the right thing. And the attorney who thought he was going to get what he wanted left there fuming,
Hmm.
right? Because accountability, checks and balances, the public has that power. It's
And
important.
right,
It's so important. And this is why I feel that we must demand that Zoom is open to the public. We shouldn't have to ask. We should be able to
exactly.
click and open and see. Because all they have to do is mute. We shouldn't have to put our names down. We shouldn't have to, request. You know, we shouldn't have to be, cleared. Anybody should be able to observe. In Giselle's case, every single time I went in, I had to request 5 days in advance. It was a bunch of hoops that I had to jump through. And I tell you, it made a world of a difference for me
Mhm.
being there. And I think it's important. It's important.
It's, I wish more people would do that. And I've court watched, even in Florida, and I've written judges up for their bad behavior, like muting a pro se litigant when she's giving her closing arguments. So he got tired of her and decided to hit the mute button. So I think not only just the cameras in the court, tamper-proof mics.
Awesome. Good.
And these judges should, oh, I'm sorry.
I'm so happy you did that.
Well, I mean, I would like to see that happen. It has not been done yet, but these judges should have no access to pushing a button and muting someone when they feel like it.
Hmm.
They should also be having random drug testing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I think it takes exactly what you're doing, writing them up, writing
Right.
them
Oh, yeah.
up public,
Right.
saying,
I mean, yeah, it's a pain in the rear end. I agree. It's a pain in the rear end to write up these judges, and I get mine notarized and I send them the copy and I keep the original
right.
of the judge's behaviors.
You can have that already like pre-written and you can just fill it out and have it something that is streamlined,
Mhm.
where fill out, check boxes, and send it right in. So it's a matter of us getting organized as, a collaborative forum. We have to start demanding, because if we don't, I don't foresee this getting any better.
I agree. And I've said on this podcast before, they should have psychiatric evaluations at least every 16 months because, the burnout, maybe they need to be moved to some other area of the court, whatever. If it,
I think they definitely need to be rotated,
right,
so that way it's always fresh. They're always seeing something new. Because I think sometimes, somebody may get under their skin,
hmm,
and then there's a possibility, a chance of bias. They're human too, right? Uh,
right,
and I don't believe that family court is a place for, we need to have a judicial setting, right? We need a jury in family court, period.
right. I wish they would just abolish it entirely and take it to civil court where a parent can opt to have a jury. Because
Um,
family court, if you think about it, it serves no earthly purpose, if I can speak English. It serves no. How can you put the term family in court?
right,
And also, these judges should have lie detector tests along with these attorneys to see who is chipping in for judge campaigns.
right.
I'm just done with that. I've been through that, and your case is
Oh,
rigged.
and then, and what we've seen here, and I found that in my case, I looked at my former judge, 700 statement. He had income from my ex's attorney's husband. So I encourage everyone to look at your Judge 700 statements and look deep. I mean, look at their attorneys and their friends, because you're going to find a link.
Right. And I know this is kind of wild, but you can find the link sometimes on LinkedIn.
Mm,
Also, there's transparencyusa.org.
mm,
And some states are on it, some states aren't, because they have to have funding in order to, establish a state and what's going on in there.
yeah,
I think California is on there, but you can look up, you can just type in the judge's name and, you know, money figures will come in.
yeah. But it's interesting because we're going to have to find one thing that I'm finding and interesting is that this family case is in Santa Clarita, California, which is, I believe, South LA. Um,
Mhm.
However, there's a DA office in that area, but the DA in that area did not take the case. It was downtown LA. The
So that's
DA,
out of jurisdiction.
the downtown LA took the case. So I got to look into that, Marianne.
They're out of their jurisdiction, I would think. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm just
Yeah, it's
throwing
something
it out there.
that I need to look into. So maybe one of your audience members, somebody that is into like criminal law, can maybe help me figure that one out. But something that I just thought about, why is it that district office in Santa Clarita didn't take the case? Because they have a history with the ex on the domestic violence case.
Mm.
Why wouldn't he take the case on Giselle Smiel, since they
Right.
already have the history on it?
And the jurisdiction.
Right,
That's how I view it. I'm not
right.
an attorney, but
And think about,
something's off there.
right,
Or someone took a payoff. I don't know.
right. Something to investigate, right? Maybe
Right.
audience members will have comment on that.
Yeah, that is very odd. Very unfortunate. How long do you think she'll be in LA County?
We need to get her out as soon as possible, because one, she's been there already over 3 weeks. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. She's been there 3 weeks and 3 days. She's been in jail. Um, and she's had one hearing so far where she was denied um, a reduction in bail. Um, Her next hearing is October 6th. She was just now assigned a public defender. A public defender has not reached out to her with any type of plan
Oh,
or discovery or nothing. So we need to just get the whole, grab the bull by the horn. Miss Smiel is extremely smart and savvy, but she needs to get a hold of her paperwork,
mm-hmm.
and get to work on this. So we need to get her out of there.
Right.
She needs to be able to answer these allegations in freedom and out of there with a clear head. And being locked up in a cell that is overcrowded with a bunch of people that are, you know, she's explaining to me, she reported to me that she's mixed in with people that are murderers, people that are, with severely drug use,
Mm-hmm.
severe mental illness. Um, I mean, I hear screams when I talk to her. I hear
Oh,
a sheer chaos. I mean,
yeah.
I imagine that it's what hell looks like.
Oh,
She tells me that she's in sheer, like, it's filth. She's living in filth. Um,
mm,
and she's not eating. She's not drinking. She says that it's just not edible. It's just,
right. It's not.
yeah.
I mean, I was given a plate, believe it or not, with oatmeal and two hot dogs on it, and it stunk. It's not like you could smell hot dogs, or at least that, but it stunk, and I couldn't eat it. And then they offered, this was strange. They offered, they had water in one thing that you could, put water in your cup. Then they had some, I don't know, some juice thing. So I thought, oh, the juice thing is sweet. I'll drink that. And someone came up to me and said, "You don't want to drink that." I said, "Why?" And they said, "That can shut down your kidneys."
Oh, wow.
So I stuck with the water. I, it's terrible. It's human rights violations in there. It's a big mess.
It's inhumane for sure. I mean, I mean, I never imagined that it was this bad, never in a million years. I mean, the stuff that she told me in details, like the sheets have
Mhm.
multiple different types of hairs, which means it was never washed. And
That's disgusting.
crust, I mean, crust, like skin crust.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
and she she asked the guard for some cleaning products to clean the jail. I mean, the cell, she's like,
Yeah.
"Can I clean this? Like, I'll do it myself."
Mm.
Sitting there, she said that she wants to sleep standing up.
Oh.
We need to get her out of there for her mental well health, and so she can answer these allegations, and she can focus, because she's a good mother. She's a Christian person.
Hmm.
She does not deserve this. She needs to be able to fight this with a good head on her shoulders and fight for her children. The kids deserve
Mm.
the kids deserve their mother well and steady and stable.
Hmm.
Deserve this. The kids don't deserve this. What they're doing to her is, I mean, they're hurting the children, right? Because the
Ultimately,
children
yes.
have a good, steady, and stable parent, and hurting their mother is ultimately hurting the children because she's the sole parent that has some sort of stability, emotional stability, right?
Hmm.
And hurting her, you're hurting the kids.
Right. But they don't care because with this personality disorder, all they do is think about themselves.
Right. And I don't believe it for 1 minute that the court is not aware of this. Because listen to this. The DA investigator, okay? The DA investigator, according to the DA investigator, um, you know what? I'm going to refrain from saying this.
Okay.
I'm going to refrain because I think this is something that can be, yeah, I'm going to refrain.
Okay, that's fine. That's
Yeah.
fine. I know there's a lot you can't say because you don't want
Think two
to.
times before I say it because I don't know if it's something that we can use later. Ah.
Right.
Mhm.
No, I agree. So, you know, who does he have watching the kids when he's working?
Um, he doesn't. Not to my knowledge, to my understanding,
Hmm.
he doesn't.
Oh my goodness. I feel so bad for her. It uh, just terrible that a commissioner ordered this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm st I would like to know the credentials of the commissioner. I want to know what that is.
This is how I see it too. How do you, as a commissioner, okay, or let's just remove the title, okay, as somebody of authority, okay, how does somebody of authority in a family court proceeding remove two children that has been with a parent for the past 5 years, okay, where the other individual, the other parent, okay, went through diversion for domestic violence. There was strangulation involved. Now, strangulation is something that is extremely serious because if you committed this type of abuse, there's a high chance of you committing it again.
Right.
Okay. Strangulation. There's been in the case where there's been alcohol abuse,
Hmm.
right? To where he had to have the a monitor in the car that I forget the name,
Oh, great. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
where he had to blow in order for the car to
Hmm.
sober link, have
Hmm.
this installed for a long period of time for visitations. He had to use SoberLink in order for the visitations to occur. So for this period of 5 years, it was so combative. It's so difficult, so challenging. So it wasn't like smooth sailing. You know what I mean? It
Hmm.
was 5 years where it was like it wasn't like smooth sailing and tranquil and non-combative and um, peaceful. It was traumatic. It was always, there was no child support, which
Hmm.
means he wasn't thinking about the best interests of the children.
Hmm.
There was SoberLink. There were visitations that weren't, he wasn't showing up for visits. She filed, multiple complaints that he wasn't showing up. Um, she was reporting that she wasn't able to, do many things because he wasn't paying.
Right.
for child support and paying for spousal support. So she was very limited in funds, right? She showed many times that she was getting eviction notices because the money wasn't enough. So she was showing the court all these documentations of the challenges she was facing because this person was not showing his parental responsibility. He wasn't holding up his end of the bargain.
Hmm.
Then, in addition, there were multiple times where he didn't show up for court and his attorney didn't show up for court. And I recall personally one time where he didn't show up for court and his attorney didn't show up for court. And the judge picked up the phone and called his attorney and said, "Hey, so and so, are you coming today?" Had the courtesy. Yet, when one time she didn't show up,
Hmm.
she's punished. So
Oh.
I believe that was the moment that it struck her full force. The institutional betrayal hurt her so much. And
And here
per-
we are.
personally, I don't disagree. The institutional betrayal, what an institution that was created to protect her, betrayed
Hmm.
her trust to a level that it's words can't describe. So at this point, it's up to the public to step in and have oversight, right? The
Hmm.
more we have oversight, the more accountability we will have. So let's put oversight on this and make
Hmm.
sure what they're supposed to do.
Exactly. Now, um, sometimes people want to reach out. Do you want them to reach out and come through me and I can get a message to you? Or do you want them to email you?
They can, I mean, either way, whatever their heart feels, I'm okay with.
Okay.
I'm not closed off. Um, Whatever. I mean, if they want to reach out to you and send a message to you through, for me, it's either way or to me directly, whatever.
Okay.
But I also wanted to point out, if that's okay with you, that we
Mhm.
do have a GoFund for Giselle.
Okay.
And if they can look it up, Giselle Smiel on GoFund, it should come up. She's urgently requesting the public for support. If it's not, with direct, if it's not a direct donation, to just share and just share her story on different platforms. I think nowadays just sharing information, it's so important, especially, with the institutional betrayal that is going on.
Hmm.
I think, from when I started working in this realm, it was fairly new, but now I'm seeing that more and more people are coming out. So it's rapidly growing. Our community is rapidly growing. And I think it's important to really speak about it.
I'm so glad you came on to speak on behalf of your friend. And yeah, it's just mind-boggling what they're getting away with doing this to a person, a mother with children, or even a dad with children. It's it's disgusting.
It is. It is. I mean, and Marianne, that her story is repeated everywhere, right? And there's people, unfortunately, that just
Mm.
don't have the voice and the strength. And we have to tell Giselle's story because her story are stories of many that are voiceless, that just don't have the strength that
Right.
she.
Oh, I agree. I agree. Well, I'm glad you came on to speak, but don't jump off, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Slam the Gavel's a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in these courtrooms. I'm your host, Marianne Petrie. You can find me on Spotify, YouTube. Please like and subscribe, Apple iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google, and other platforms I don't know about. Again, feel free to buy me a coffee to help keep this podcast going. Thank you so much. Renata DeMello, thank you for speaking out on behalf of your friend Giselle.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me.